And you see, if I hover my mouse over this gray, dark gray area here, we are getting the magnifier, and I can actually zoom in by taking my mouse down a little bit and get a better overview of this entire section. So I can also do the opposite. This is how you navigate your array around the arrangement view. And by default, since this sample, drum loop 1, is looped, I can also hover over the end of the sample, and you see these little brackets showing up in the mouse, and I can drag it longer, and it will loop or repeat that part of the sample one more time. It's 4 bars long, lasting from bar 17 to bar 21, and the same thing will be repeated from bar 21 to bar 25. Click in here, press play. Now we also have the second drum loop here. I can now take this drum loop and just drop it into this area here. So let's drag and drop it, and you see it shows up, and I can actually drop it here, leave it dropping, and now we have drum loop number 1 playing here, and drum loop number 2 will be playing here. Okay, so we still have those 2 MIDI channels here, and we haven't talked too much about them. So let me quickly show you the difference between MIDI channels and audio channels. I'm going back to my PML sound files folder here, and I'm picking up this PML bass MIDI file, MIDI, and I'm dragging it over to the first MIDI track up here. It asks me import tempo and time signature data to the arrangement. I'm saying no. I want to keep the tempo I have in my arrangement right now. And you see, if I'm clicking onto this MIDI track, down here, it shows note information. This is basically sheet music data. So we are going to start with B-1, and then we are playing D0, and this is happening over time. But if I'm playing this now, together with this audio here, nothing changes because I haven't applied any instrument to play this sheet music data with. I need an instrument that can be told, dear instrument, please play this note in the first bar, follow with this note, and then in the second bar play these 3 ones. So this is where I can load up an instrument, for example, from the Ableton instruments. So if we go over to the browser, click on instruments, we have analog, collision, and impulse and stuff, and depending on what Ableton version you're working with, I'm going to use operator here for demonstrating purposes. And how am I getting this instrument onto this track now? I'm just going to drag it over onto this MIDI track, and I can also double click it. So let me quickly take it off again, right clicking and deleting it. I can also select this MIDI track and then double click on the instrument, and you see it shows up down here. This is an instrument, a synthesizer, a sound generating device. And now you might be wondering, well, okay, where's this note or sheet music information gone? Well, we have these 2 panels down here. If we look at the info view here to the left, I'm hovering over this area, it says clip view selector, and if I hover here, this is device view selector. So I can select our device, or I can select our clip. This is showing you everything that's happening on this clip. And if you feel like this is a little bit of a tiny representation of the sheet, you can just hover over this area where we are just switching from this device view into our arrangement view and drag it longer to get a bit more insight into what's going on. And also hover over here where you get the magnifier and where you can, adjust the general view of what is happening. So now we can actually also edit this MIDI information, enter new stuff, and I can also delete them quickly by selecting both of them and hitting my delete key on the keyboard. And I'm going to bring it back down now. I'm going to the device view to take a look at my instrument, which will play back what is happening here. And if we play this now, now we've entered a very low bass sound. If you're on headphones, you might have heard it. If you're on laptop speakers, you might have not even heard that bass sound because it was so low. Frequencies were very low. So what we can do now, we can apply a certain preset or predefined setting to this instrument. It could be a bass phase, for example, or anything else. I'm actually going to use a predefined setting from my PML sound files, PML sub-bass. I'm going to drag it onto this operator device, and now we will play back this predefined bass sound. You see a couple of these settings switched around. This is basically telling the device, please play a sound that's a little different from the one we were playing before. So let's play back everything. Okay, and now we have a nice little bass sound played by this instrument, playing these different notes at different positions in time together with our audio files down here. And I had the feeling this bass sound was a little loud compared to those two, so I actually want to bring the volume fader down a little bit. Now if we remember in the session view, so session view, we had these faders here where we brought down these two tracks by -7 roughly. Now, these faders are also existing in our arrangement view. They just look a little different. Let me go back. And actually, these little blue lines here with those values inside, -7, -6.4, these are our volume faders. And this is the one for our bass. Track volume, it says down here in the info view, track volume. So I'm bringing that one down a bit as well. Can actually also enter a value like -4 decibels. And also, if I don't want to listen to this bass for a moment, I can deactivate the track. You see, this is the track activator. If I click on it, can do the same thing with the pluck loop. And I can click them back into the project. And I could also be wanting to play this drum loop alone. And this is my so-called solo knob. I can solo this track, just play this track by itself.